This conference will now be
All right.
recorded.
Okay. All right. Welcome to the Shelby County Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission meeting. I call this meeting to order at 6:08 p.m. We can go ahead and proceed with roll call, the first agenda item. We only have 2 people that are currently present. Chair Latricia Adams present. Secretary Matthew Woods. All right. So I want to say on the record, we currently do not have quorum, but we'll still move forward with the meeting as scheduled, but we won't do anything calling for a vote. All things will just be from an informative or discussion perspective. Also, we currently don't have anyone online at this time in our virtual setting. So we'll go to agenda item 2 for public comment. So we don't have anyone online, but I do want to address some follow-up questions that came, and this kind of can go over into agenda item 3, which is public comment post-action updates. So we did receive a follow-up communication from Protect Our Aquifer, where back, I believe, actually at the February meeting during a public comment, there was a request from Protect Our Aquifer around an inquiry about the CDC grant that was awarded to the health department. So we did our due diligence. At one of our previous meetings, we said that if there's anything that comes through the LPC that's not necessarily aligned to the purview of our work, that we would just serve as a liaison and do a passing the baton to the respective agency or entity that would be best suited to answer that question. So that's what we did in that particular case. The issues that were raised also in that public comment was around fear contamination with groundwater and the aquifers being impacted. And from Memphis Community Against Pollution, their inquiries was around concerns with air pollution. So we did send that direct correspondence over to Director Taylor, which she responded swiftly and essentially gave some additional context that said that with this particular grant, it would be used for recruitment and professional development with staff, specifically with the pollution department, which Director Taylor had said before it needed to be beefed up essentially with that particular department. So I said, okay. And so I took that information and I gave it back to Protect Our Aquifer and Memphis Community Against Pollution. And so they both responded and said they wanted a bit more specificity around, okay, that's great that there'll be more investment, but specifically from a regulatory and oversight perspective, what would that look like? That still was not answered. Hey, good. All right, so I want to acknowledge really quickly that we do have another LPC member, Vice Chair Eric Stevenson, who is now here. So we'll proceed. So right now, Eric, we are on, it's a blend between item 2 and item 3. Public comment and then public comment post-action updates. So I'm starting with the health department update. Okay. So kind of giving a little bit of a timeline. Okay, so essentially, once Protect Our Aquifer and Memphis Community Against Pollution wanted a bit more insight and additional information around specificity around what would the regulatory oversight accountability would look like from the pollution department, I sent that inquiry back to Director Taylor, and so Director Taylor essentially said, at this point, what do we recommend? Like, should we meet? Like, should there be like some type of like, what should happen next, right? And so I recommended like you probably want to meet with them. I'm gonna be transparent. A lot has transpired since that last meeting. And with that particular correspondence, particularly like there have been issues around ETO. I'm not going to go into depth about that, where it may have been just a little bit contentious around what some of the requests were from Memphis Community Against Pollution versus the health department. with this body, we know why we exist. We still have to stay on task. Our role in that, because this was something that was brought up in public comment, was to pass it off to the agency where these community members said that they wanted more insight. That was our role. I was there. I'm stand my ground and stick to that. And so it was brought up recently that that request for that meeting wasn't honored. So it's our due diligence, since that public comment came up in our meeting, that we have to circle back to it. So essentially, I went back to the health department and said, hey, it was brought to my attention that this meeting like still didn't happen. Like, can you follow up with them? Can you meet with the people? So you be like, we did what we were supposed to do on our end. So essentially, the meeting still hasn't happened. However, there was another avenue with the new administration, which is new to us, right? So when the LPC was established, that was when Director Haushauser was still in her position, which she kind of left abruptly. And so honestly, we had not established rapport yet with the new administration. And so really with that communication, it led to more with the health department wanting to know a little bit more about the LPC and like how we can collaborate more, which I champion that. I think that that's great. I welcome that. But at the same time, the inquiry still hasn't been addressed and the meeting still hasn't been honored. That's still currently like up in the air. And so just in full disclosure, because I'm like, I don't want any smoke. I want to maintain rapport that we have both with community organizations as well as with agencies, right? Because at the end of the day, this commission was established by the mayor and confirmed by the commission. So this commission literally works in tandem with the administration, right? So essentially, I did seek some guidance from our assigned attorney. And so pretty much her recommendation was like, send it to them with counsel and kind of let them deal with it. Because I'm just going to make it plain. I don't want to get in the middle of that, because it's not what the inquiry is important. It's very important, but it's not really aligned to the scope of our responsibilities with this commission. Also something that I brought up, there is the groundwater board and there's also a pollution board. And so that may also be fitting as well. But our assigned attorney was like, just let counsel like deal with that. So I'm relieved.
So and for clarity, and for me to understand, so is it the opinion, or not the opinion, kept my words. So are they suggesting that you send the inquiry to the health division or health?
So the health department.
Health department. Why
It's a long day.
It has been a long day. Health department, and then from there, the determination is made between which board needs properly.
Yeah, just kind of let you know, because it's not us, right?
Right.
Well, I'm excited that like and I expressed this, I said, not to disparage any other boards and commissions, but we're really like, we work hard to be community facing. I'm excited that people came to make public comment, and we want to be instrumental with getting people where they need to go, but we won't be able to solve that issue with our particular commission. And so essentially council was just like, they gonna handle it, and I'm relieved. Amen. And then we did what we did God's work, and we through with that. So that's the update on that. I did invite, and this was my bad. I don't know what I was thinking. So I did mention that we were having this meeting tonight to the health department. I made a mistake and said that it was Thursday as opposed to today. And so Director Taylor's schedule didn't allow for her to join us this evening, but we're fingers crossed that she may be able to join us in our December meeting, which will be great. So I'm looking forward to that. As far as that discourse was very amicable. We do have representation in this body from the health department on task around lead, which we champion that. So that's the update on that particular public comment, or that came in writing. We had a second public comment or complaint, if you will, that came from community. This was maybe about 2 weeks ago, where essentially this was an inquiry that had to be routed to MLGW. So there were two units from this local nonprofit where they essentially tried to set up housing for people that like were either formerly incarcerated, that are in transition, that's trying to get back on their feet. It's been maybe like 6 to 8 months where they've been trying to get utilities turned on for 2 units. That's a long time. And so it was both water and power that still hadn't been turned on. Following what we said, I did a Passover where I said, okay, that's not within the purview of this commission. And so I sent it over to MLGW. MLGW was responsive, y'all. Like, I mean, within minutes. Like, they responded literally like in that same day, they got everything reconciled.
That's a
win.
Yeah, that's a solid influence.
It is. I was real excited about that. And like we came, I'm like, here you go. This is what we received. Cause I even was like, I'm not really sure, like even like what all of the specifics are with what the issue is. And then like who I reached out to, like with MLGW, I'm like, forgive me if you're not even the right person. You're just who I know. So, bring in the right people. It was a perfect pass off. They brought in like, here's the people that work with that, got everything resolved. Yay, go team. So yeah, come through. So those are the only public comments and like complaints, if you will, that came through since the last time that we met. But any questions about any?
Are these comments or
They come through the email. So we got a whole web page, and it's got my email on there. Which is good. Which is good. And then also like we have 3 social media pages. We got Facebook, we got Instagram. What's the other? Twitter or X, whatever. It's Twitter forever for me. So it's multiple facets where people, are able to pose a question. So for this particular one, it came via email.
Is that the most common medium for?
I would prefer for it to, in fact, like there have been some instances, just in full transparency, where people will, especially on social media, they will tag me in something. And so if it is something that's specific, like to this body or like a line, I would say you need to email it because that's personal, like at this point, and I want to create boundaries. So in those instances, like I'll just say email it because I would rather like
go through the proper channels.
Right, go through the proper channels because we're not gonna get that started. But that was a good question. Is that email is absolutely the preferred, or you physically coming to one of our meetings to make public comment, like a traditional public comment. But yep. Okay. So moving to the next item, approval of the minutes. I'm trying to think. No, we don't have quorum, do we? Let me see.
Well, what's the total body?
Let me see. 1, 2, 3. Sharon, Dr. Barnes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we needed one more person. Okay, so we could just acknowledge the minutes from the previous meeting. Thank you, Secretary, for putting this together so beautifully. They're so robust. So I'll give a couple of minutes if we want to just take a review, but we can't, we can't vote to approve.
These out there.
I know, come on.
Never go get that every time. I'm gonna try to make them more consistent.
Yeah, but last meeting we had,
This is weird.
did we have 3 public comments, I think? How many? We were heavy on the public comments at the last meeting.
A couple of visitors.
Yeah. So.
There's some formatting.
Something goes wrong with Word. It like,
With the tabs,
yeah, I'm like, what's going on? And then even when you copy and paste it to a brand new document, it still does what it wants to do. I don't know.
That's a daily battle.
Okay. Any points for discussion since we can't vote on the minutes?
Nothing hops out.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we can go ahead and go into old business. So the first item under old business, there was a request, and it kind of was a recurring request to get some additional information about TDEC and actually the Tennessee Department of Health with their childcare facility testing program. They have a website that's new. I'm really excited. So in the website, they have all of the information that you need if you do want to do a request for free testing. They have all the contact information that you need, which is what we needed. And so that information was relayed to LaBonner. It was relayed to Dr. Burns, and we might need to do a follow-up to get it over to Porterleaf, because that was one of the entities that wanted to know a bit more, like what do you need to do in order to get access to the testing. So I was excited to see that. So that's a check. And in our regard, we're doing that follow-up. So that is available. And hopefully there can be some strategizing around getting that information out to as many daycare and childcare facilities as possible. I think the only point of concern would be for like family care centers, so like your home-based daycares, because it's kind of like if you do this testing and it does come back with elevated levels, people might be scared that it might impact like their income. So like you would have to like notify, parents, like if it did come back with elevated levels. But one of the things that I did recommend, I think in the previous meeting, was there's an organization called the Children's Environmental Health Network, and that's their whole thing. They have something called the Eco Healthy, I think it's Eco Healthy. Let me not mess up the name of this. They have a program where they specifically work with daycares. Part of it is around like lead hazard reduction, both with lead paint and with water. And then they also do some other things like education around like certain chemicals that you don't need to use, like with cleaning products. Is very robust. So that was the recommendation in those instances where people may be a little bit nervous. It's kind of like I want to know, but I'm scared to know.
Because they don't know what the next course of action is.
Right. And they might be strapped for cash. So like, what does the remediation look like? Because that's not funded. Yep, which is part of the issue that happened with like the school districts where they were like, we want to know, but y'all didn't give us any money to do any of the remediation.
Once you know you have a duty to respond.
Hold on, this is gonna bother me if I don't get the name of this program, right? Eco Healthy Childcare. Yes, that is the name of it. But it's super robust. And so, hold on, this got a real nice description. If my internet will stop forsaking me. But essentially, like the focus of this program is a comprehensive like program to make sure that the environments that kids are in daycares, childcare facilities, including home-based daycares, that they are free from like hazardous chemicals, heavy metals, and the like. So the description says we're a national program of the Children's Environmental Health Network that partners with childcare professionals to eliminate environmental hazards found in or around childcare facilities. So that was a reference, so people don't even have to reinvent the wheel. They are fully certified to do this work. Like you can get endorsed by them. Like it's really cool. So that was my recommendation, so that people don't feel like they have to start from scratch. It's already something that exists that they can push into. And this organization is led by a Black woman. I have to put that in there. I know, right? Yes, Black women. Um,
Not surprised.
yeah, so that was my update there. So that was an exciting update. Next one, pause. Was there any questions or any points of discussion for that update? No. Okay. Next update, Lead Poison Prevention Week social media campaign. So this, what does it start? No, week after next. I keep getting confused. Is it next week? Am I messing up?
Yeah,
Just kidding.
Yeah, 23rd, 20. Yeah, that's next week.
Dang. How?
Time is flying.
Time is flying.
It is
Well, all
already
right.
October.
My God. All right. Well, it starts next week. We're just going to use what EPA and CDC uses for their lineup. So I ain't got capacity to do anything real fancy. So what I'll do, actually, I know that the health department already is on board and they do it anyway. We have to do a reminder to the mayor's office for them to also like get on board. We probably don't have time to try to re-engage Memphis Shelby County Schools. I'm still gonna ask. It was a long process to get them involved, and all of the staff that we work with to get that off the ground, literally all of them are gone, including me. I used to work there. I don't work or either.
That's funny.
So we might not be able to get them on board, but what I'll do is try to get some other like organizations, local organizations on board to just repost, retweet all of the different information during that week. Also an update with that, not necessarily connected with social media, but I'm super excited about this. So Porter Leaf in the health department, I believe, are supposed to start doing some testing the week of National Lead Poison Prevention Week. I mean, that's the win right there, because those are little babies. So it's pre-K age kids. So that, I mean, whatever with the social media campaign. I mean, that's a win. So was excited to see that that came through, I think, a bit earlier this week. So with that, if they allow us to, like, if there's any imagery or something that they are like posting like from Porter Leaf to amplify that, then that would be good for us to uplift that as well. So super excited about that. But yep, that should be easy peasy, just getting folks to be on one accord. Is there any other folks that you think we should tap? Because these people I was gonna tap. We already got the health department, mayor's office. I'm going to tap the Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, hopefully Porter Leaf. Even not a whole bunch of people. I'll ask the Urban League.
I'll reach out to the chambers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because actually, it's workforce. You're so smart. Yep. Trying to think, who else could we tap? I'm thinking about maybe the Works. They might do it. They might. I mean, like they do environmental stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's whole brownfield meetings and stuff. So that's not completely divorced from the things that they're engaged in.
Memphis, that's who I forgot. Chet's organization, Memphis and Shelby County Led Safe Collaborative. My bad. I'm trying to think who else. We can come up with some more offline. That just came off top. I think we got a list from who participated the last time. So I'll just re-engage those folks. And again, I'm gonna do, because CDC already got everything set up, so they could just do what they need to do to post and just call it a day. But if you all have any other recommendations, just let me know and I can reach out to those folks and see if they'll participate. Yep, okay. Next update. We met finally with the MLGW grant writer, and y'all, she is amazing. She is great. So she immediately so she came to the Healthy Homes Partnership. She came to that meeting Monday. And we actually met with her again, but that's gonna be another agenda item. So essentially, meeting was extremely positive. Sis is over there by herself. She does not have a team. She does not have a team. And so we assured her that in those instances where there are grants that do come up, like you have folks like Ella Barner, you have like staff from the Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, you have other like government staff that can also push in to support her to get like grants completed, because that's a lot, especially with federal grants to be by yourself. But we kept assuring her, you have help, like if you need it. There's one particular grant, I don't really know if it's gonna be enough time because it's due like November the 8th, like that's what, in 2 weeks? I don't really know, but all is not lost. There's tons of grants that are coming down from the federal government, particularly around water infrastructure. But at least we got the meter. Excellent rapport off the bat. She's already been very present, like in community, like where we've connected her with. So that's a win. Yay, positive report, like in that regard. Also, we got her signed up for Congressman Cohen has this newsletter where he does grant email blasts, so at least like she can have on her radar like as things are coming in. And I honestly, not even just like for water infrastructure, I mean clearly we know some other stuff that's going on in the city with MLGW that may be helpful as well, as she tries to build their grant portfolio. Also something else, that we mentioned to her and wouldn't be within her purview, but also like really pushing for there to be matching funds so that it won't be such a dependency on grants, because we don't want to get that started. We already got that going on with some of our other agencies.
Their existence is directly tied to the grants.
Right. Like we don't even want to set that precedence. So from an advocacy perspective, it leaves room for there to be more advocacy from MLGW to get matching funds. Because honestly, I know that a lot of people feel a way about MLGW. They be strapped for cash. Like they can't depend on revenue like other cities of this size because we are so inundated with poverty. So they often go on the red a lot on revenue. So it's got to be, they have to diversify like their funding sources. And honestly, from a water infrastructure perspective, like we have to fight hard because energy is kind of trumping water at this point. So, but that's not within, that's too much for sis in her role. But we did say that like, yeah, like you got support. Yeah, so that we also mentioned in the meeting that we and that's kind of go more into this next update, but it's got to be a better plan, a plan like around infrastructure altogether, and then how it's going to be funded over time. But anyway, all in all, went really well. We like her. I'm wondering if she has capacity. I probably can. Oh, I forgot about that. Maybe we can invite her to the December meeting. That might be good. And she can join virtually since, she doesn't have to physically, or she's just not a member of LPC. But that might be good too for her to just kind of see like how we operate. And honestly, you know what else I thought about? Technically, based on our resolution, there's a seat for MLGW that has never been filled.
Yep. That's how you build coalition.
That might be a good look. Let me put that on my next step and just talk to her, see how she feels. But it's never been filled and it's on there. Because I think at first we were looking at someone from the water department. I think that this role would probably be a little bit better because it's more connected to community than like someone that's super technical, because there would be like engineers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything disparaging. I love engineers, my uncle's an engineer. But they tend to be hyper focused on the very technical aspects of things,
Mhm.
which can be challenging when you need to widen the scope of things you need to talk about and be engaged in.
Yeah.
They tend to be only interested in their area of focus. It's like, that's cool, but what about
Right.
this, right? So yeah, you're I'm just here to validate that your thought process there is
Yeah.
correct.
Like I love it because they gonna get some stuff done, but
Oh,
like
absolutely. And it's gonna be
laser focus.
laser from but that's what they're trained
That's
to
their
do.
ministry.
Exactly.
Mhm. So I'm gonna put a pin in that and see what we can
That might
get
be-
with
that
it.
might be a good fit.
Look at God. Okay. Okay, so next update, good segue. Okay, so with the lead service line replacement plan, I don't know where they are with progress. However, I did find out, dang, I don't know what his last name is. The man that is responsible for leading this program, Heath, do you know who he, what's Heath's last name? I don't know, I got to Google. Heath.
I don't think I know Heath.
Cause you already know I'm about to reach out. I'm gonna find him. It's Heath. He's a consultant. What is Heath's last name? Hold on, I think I might be getting close. Let's see, Heath, what's your last name, friend? Dang, that's just so. The name of, I think that this is his consultant agency is called Heath Consultants, but anyway, I'm gonna find that out and how to get in contact with them because this has got to be more inclusive of community and like, what are y'all doing? One of the biggest concerns is with transparency around inventory. So the GIS map still like has not all been updated. There's still a ton of yellow. So just for points of clarity on the record. So in the GIS map that's generated by MLGW, first and foremost, the data that was populated was manually input from some files from the early 90s. The GIS map, I think, got started like in 2016, where it's pretty, it got a little bit spicy, where essentially some community members like called them out, like it's lead service lines and y'all not saying anything about it. And so they had to get it together and then they designed this map. But even though it is a GIS map, it's still based on manual entry. And so essentially they would have to do a significant amount of work to confirm whether or not lead is present or not. So when you go into the map in certain areas, it'll like be green, yellow, or red, or gray. So yeah, it needs to be updated. And then also the other part of that is it only shows you what exists on the public side. It doesn't show you what exists on the private side. So in preliminary conversations with MLGW, specifically with the water department, they're a little bit skeptical because, I mean, in order for you to determine if it's lead on the private side, you got to go on the private side. So you have to get consent. And I'm like, just ask. The worst thing they could tell you is no, but like do a plan. Like that goes back to community outreach and community education. If you get people like on board and like saying like this is what we're trying to do, I don't see like, especially like if you own your property, that's connected with property value, right? Because I'm thinking about when I got my condo, that was the first thing I'm like, is it lead in here? That was a determining factor, right? So anyway, I don't know what the progress is. I think this body has been asking since our inception. So what? Ooh, we started in 2019. Ooh, it's been 4 years. Wow. We've been asking for a long time, and then it got a little bit more pronounced like once Biden got in office, because there has now been money allocated to this. So again, MLGW got almost $500,000 just to do the planning around this. So we need to know what's up, right? So once I find out how to reach out to this Heath person, I'm going to do that. so we can see like what's going on. And again, it's not a gotcha. I just really want to know where y'all at. Do you need help or what? Like what's up?
Like if it's the same company, looks like they're based out of Houston.
Mm, mm,
I don't know if I'm looking at the right thing. It's,
okay. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit of digging to figure out. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. But yeah, that would be great. It's possible. Like I know that it's difficult. Where they are consistently saying like it's gonna be just so difficult. I really think that they don't even know where to start. But that's why you could have used some of your funds to like go visit other places, connect with other cities that are similar as far as population to see what they're doing.
Well, I mean, they could start with the largest. Again, this is me saying in a vacuum, but you can start in the largest populated area. That I mean, the most, start where you can service the most people with, those lines,
Mm-hmm.
or you can just start from the most impoverished zip code,
Right.
or census tract.
Yeah.
I mean, so if there's $500,000 that's been allocated, has any of it been deployed? Do you know?
No.
Okay.
That's a good question. I can ask. I can do a
Yeah.
follow-up.
I mean, my approach to things, especially again, it ain't worth a hill of beans in this vacuum. However, attack the most impoverished zip code. We've got 86 zip codes that are deeply impoverished. So
Mm-hmm.
take one of those.
Now, when I did, when I met with President McGowan earlier this year, he did mention that because I kept saying that we've been asking how y'all gonna prioritize this, because you have to be careful. Because if you don't do this the right way, then you're teetering with like some civil rights issues, right? And so they're consistent saying like, we're not gonna all do replacements in like Midtown. Like we also like want to touch like Orange Mound, South Memphis. You saying that out loud, we need to see this like pen to paper, like in a plan, right? A plan, a committee. And so he did mention that they were looking to prioritize where they had done partial service line replacement, which we've come a mighty long way, haven't we? Because at first we was arguing like, do not do partial service line replacement. Like that defeats the purpose. So I will say that with this new leadership, they have acknowledged like we should not do partial service line replacements, which meaning at first they will only do replacements on the public side, but not on the private side. I get why. It's complex. So you do have to get consent. I had an opportunity. Have y'all ever seen anybody do a lead service line replacement before? Woo, y'all. I saw one in person. Now, it wasn't in Tennessee. I did see one. I did a site visit for a replacement in DC. Now, keep in mind, DC is way different as far as structure because they have row houses. We have traditional standalone houses. Nevertheless, it's intense. It's intense, and honestly, it's a bit invasive. But I think like with how our communities are set up, it's traditional. We have yards, whereas in DC they don't. It's almost zero lot if you're in a row home. So I have seen, but I hadn't seen people actually working. I've seen sites here in Memphis where they're doing lead service line replacement. For the most part, like the residential side either starts like at the sidewalk or at the beginning of their yard. On the sidewalk, it's not as invasive. If it is like on like the lawn part, you tear up the yard. And so I'm not really sure like what the process looks like because it's all these different ways, like from a technical perspective, how you actually like excavate and get the line out. I'm not sure how that's done in Memphis. In fact, it really would be cool if we could convince them to like let us go see one. Cause my mind was blown. I'm gonna be honest, I empathize a lot more. That's a lot of labor. Ooh, you have to dig deep. I don't even know, like, and again, like this is in a different part of the country, but now I'm wondering like what equipment is used. Like it was a lot.
Productivity standpoint is,
Yeah.
up north, I would assume that if they find like a batch, I would, a subdivision maybe there's 10 houses built in that subdivision. And so you can go in and say, okay, these 10 houses were built, so they're all gonna have bad service lines. So I'm going in efficiently, get in and pull out those bad service lines. However, based on the dispersed landscape of Memphis, it's a completely different animal.
Right.
You got a house here, you got a house here. And in those row houses, they're probably very consistent.
Right.
Here, they're probably very different. You know, this one might have to be out of this way. This one might be, unless you got houses that were built, you know, in a
subdivision,
in a very plain.
You're
But
right.
if they were individually built, say, you know, years ago, and then it was patched on at different times, it's harder and harder to identify. So I
You
can
sure
imagine this.
right. Because I know I can even from just a visual perspective, I've seen some lists like where they're doing it, not with the actual like people physically doing it, but like you could tell that they're doing it. So it looks way different like in Crosstown, like versus like how it looks downtown, for example. So like in Crosstown, it is for the most part, like it just disrupts the sidewalk. Downtown, well, the majority of downtown is done. Maybe this is like kind of like downtown, almost about to be like South Memphis. It looks completely different. Um, Even more reason for there to be a plan because this is complex. It is really complex. And I understand why it costs so much too. So I think y'all recall I said, I asked President McGowan, just tell me like just ballpark figure, how much it costs to just to do like about like 13 to 1500 lead service line replacements is like close to $1.5 million. And when he said that, I was like, my God. But when I saw it,
The labor.
it's a lot. And it requires a lot of people. So like,
Yeah, on top of the labor shortage.
right. So I would say I counted at least almost 12 people. It was a lot of people.
Down in the day, couple days.
That varies. So, ooh, that's another part. Not to belabor, but my mind was blown. Y'all know I'm super inquisitive. So I had questions. So I was just like, what happens if it rains? You know, so like, you know, we be having flash floods like in Memphis too. And that's a whole nother infrastructure issue. And so they said, if it's like a flash flood, you have to pause and you have to pause for a while because if you already had like open like spaces, now you have to like because you can't wait for the water to dry up, but it also becomes like a soil contamination issue. So it's so complex. So they were like, okay, depending on where they are in the process. So if they had just got started, so in DC, they automatically assume the soil is contaminated. So before they even start to do the replacement, they take off like several top layers of the soil and then they dump it. Now, you know, that's another question where I'm like, where are you dumping it? Where are you dumping it? Separate conversation. Anyway,
Such a new soil.
yeah. So that's what extra money. Y'all, I was like, oh my God. It did make me empathize a lot more. I'm like, this is so complex. So you got that part. So when it rains, depending on where they are with the process, if it hit this soil that may be contaminated, it's all sorts of things that you have to do at that point where now you have to figure out like how to contain it. Then if it's still wet, that causes an issue.
Runoff.
Then it's got runoff. Then you have to also take into consideration what OSHA. So like making sure that like the actual people doing the labor are not like at risk. Y'all, it was a lot of moving parts. Then in addition to that, because it is so complex, they have to amp up their project management too, because you have so many moving parts and it's like different people doing like different things.
Yeah.
My mind was blown. But I think I'm like, we need to, so with my nonprofit, we're part of this collective called the Lead Service Line Collaborative. I think we the only people that touch Memphis that's in that collaborative. But I want to do that. I want like some people to see like a live replacement because I want to see what it looks like in Memphis. Because golly, that was a lot. I was like, Lord, no wonder it's taking so long. right? It's expensive. It's taken a long
So
time.
1,300 lines is 1.5 million.
And they only got from the bipartisan infrastructure law, they only got about $1.4 million. So that ain't nothing in comparison to how many lines exist. So that goes back to where I'm like, it's got to be some matching funds. So now again, this is a different part of the country. Y'all in DC, this project to replace all the lead service lines is close to $1 billion. And they're short 200 million. Yeah, we need to know what this process, what this, what this plan is, because it's a lot. And I mean, like, if they would be more inclusive, you got a whole nationally acclaimed civil engineering department at the University of Memphis that may be able to provide some insight. I don't know, but they got to be more transparent. And if you need help, just say that, because they probably need help after what I saw. My God.
Yeah.
Ooh, mine was blown. Then another thing, um, the way you kind of touched on this, Eric. So the way that they actually pull the line out of the ground varies. So like, and again, it depends on like how it was laid. So for example, when I mentioned earlier when we were talking about public comment, like with these new houses where they have to literally like establish a water line and electricity, that might be different than the house next door, because that might have been laid 100 years ago. I don't know.
Right.
You know, so
Even though code was completely different.
right.
And then there's a series of updates and accommodations and things redone. And so there's oftentimes you don't know what's in the ground till you get in the ground.
Then another thing that was also eye-opening was, and now it made me empathize more with MLGW, and they kept saying, look, we ain't trying to do a whole lot of stuff on the residential side. And I'm like, you have to. It's liability. So depending on where that line, so again, like if it stops at the sidewalk, you tear up the sidewalk, you're gonna be beefing with the city. If you tear up, if you mess up something on their property,
Let me add yet another layer of complexity to that. What's the homeownership rate?
right?
Rental rate is 60%.
Jesus.
So that means you're dealing with absentee ownership to a degree. You're dealing with, and then after that, if you have the perfect landlord tenant scenario, then you've got to deal with the landlord and the tenant. So now you've got to communicate with two separate bodies, and so I don't know why I hadn't thought about this before, but it becomes immensely more complicated. And so that 15, like that 1.5 million for those 1,300 lines is roughly about $1,500, $1,153 per replacement, right? That's just on average. So, but once you get in the ground, no matter what I know from project management is that cost up front. So that 1115 can be close to probably 15, right?
Ooh.
So you got like 1,500 per. That's gonna take you that 1.2. So you're gonna need some matching funds. That I'm just going through that analysis. That's crazy. But we gotta find a way, because it has so many exacerbating effects on the community. So it's not an option of to not do it. It's just a matter of what's the plan to do it and how do we figure out the most economical and efficient way to do it.
Right. So I even know, so even with Biden's 10-year plan, when he announced, I was like, baby, that ain't feasible. I give it 20 years minimum. To be honest, this is a lot. It's a lot. So
I'm sorry.
I
just really had to dig into that, like from my development experience. I'm like, I'll leave that.
You saying that helped put some things in place for me.
Yeah, no, that's.
Yeah, because you the business on the money side. I was just like, man, this is a lot. So all that to say, even more reason why we need transparency on where they are with this plan, because it is a lot of layers. So that's the update there. It took a while, but
no, that's good exercise.
So next steps for me, I'm gonna try to figure out who the Heath people are, try to reach out to them and see if we can schedule a site visit to see like what it looks like. Because honestly, I think praise God, we're in a good space with MLGW where I'm like, y'all, it ain't a gotcha. I just want to get the stuff done. But you just gotta let us know what's up. You need help, say that. Yeah. But okay. Next one. This was supposed to be Sharon's update around the barriers with eligibility rules for the lead paint program. I'm gonna have to table this again. Just in general, and I don't want to misspeak, so I'm not gonna stand it too long. But, and I hate this so much, and it goes back to why we need matching funds. So with HUD has their own like rules around eligibility when you do like abatement work through their grants, right? Some of them are a little bit problematic. So for example, like this might be local, which might be part of like what Sharon is talking about, but part of it is around like you can't be behind on your taxes. Look now, you are really dealing with people that are already poor. First of all, it's a blessing that they even own a home. Like, why are you creating another barrier? I don't know, but
Yeah, I guess depending on it's federal funding, so it's a taxation issue. The challenge is also so then it's an ownership piece as well. So because then the title of the property of who owns it could potentially become clouded. But the reason I know this in real estate, you have to disclose if the house was built before I think 1978, if there's lead paint within the house, but typically the remediation of that is if it's been painted over. If there's no peeling paint within a house that's been built before 1978, then it's typically fine. The inspection they pass it, it's fine. However, but if at any point you disrupt that, you've got to disclose the house was built before 1978, and then you've got a problem because now you got to have the proper PPE to make sure you're protected in the process.
You got to present with a lead risk assessment report and all that stuff too, man.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the specific barriers are, so I'm just gonna table it again until Sharon can speak to that in more detail.
Other pieces, and that's just what I'm thinking about from just the residential transference of property.
Yeah, but even like with that program, because do y'all have a wait list still on the county side?
As far as lead goes, we're moving along, we're trucking along.
Okay.
More so as
yeah, on the city side, they do have a wait list.
We're actually trying to get more folks in.
Okay, well that's good.
We got plenty of work going on.
We need to pick up our canvassing. My bad. We're doing good on the canvassing side. We're canvassing. We'll give them referrals for the program.
No, we're working. We got plenty. We're just trying to keep it in the pipeline to keep it consistent.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, we'll move from that item. Next one, we real heavy on all the lead stuff today. Okay, lead and copper rule update, child. So there was a meeting. What's the day? Was it? Yeah, it was yesterday. Ooh, baby, the community did not like that meeting. It was not informative. So first and foremost, we've been waiting for over a year for them to determine when they're going to finally release these revised rules. In the beginning of the Biden administration, I don't think you were here yet, but Memphis was selected as one of the communities where EPA, because we still were in quarantine, where they did a community listening tours across the country, and Memphis was one of the selected places. So we had all these different stakeholders to get them feedback to inform the first round of the lead and copper rule revisions. In a perfect scenario, you would have tried to hurry up to get those rules revised at least by the second year of the president's term. His tenure, as president is about to be over. So now the timeline is deferred. They're not going to get this rule like finalized until October 2024. We don't know like who's going to be in office. I mean, even if we do get a Democratic president, I wonder what's gonna go on with Biden. We still don't know if they're gonna uphold this rule. We don't know. We don't know if we're still gonna have the same administrator. It's a lot of ambiguity. If you get a GOP candidate in there, they're gonna roll back everything.
They're stopping all of that.
You know, so I'm like, I don't know why they would wait this late. So people were livid about that. Also, they kept like giving this like energy that they were going to open up public comment at the end of this month. Now they're saying that it's going to be November. People get upset again because public comment is still slated to close in January. So that means that you miss some time to get some additional public comment. That the people were not pleased at all by that. And in the presentation, they was like just going over like stuff that was unnecessary. Like they were giving like the history of like the Safe Water Drinking Act. Like, what, we already know what that is. So it didn't go well. I am personally not pleased. I was also very upset that they have pushed the date back where they're going to open up public comment, but what can we do? But the biggest issue is it's not going to be finalized until it's over with. And for it to be October 2024, and that means that like election day is literally going to be the next month.
So it's almost a week from.
That has all sorts of implications. So I know one point when we first established this commission, the first thing that we did was to, at that time, Representative Lamar, who's now Senator Lamar, introduced some amendments to the current state bill for testing for lead in school drinking water, where the threshold is too high, where they were using the EPA threshold of 15, but that's too high. And it's counterproductive because CDC said it's at 5. So we were trying to get that lowered. We also were trying to get them to include childcare facilities because right now it's not. So based on the state law, it's only K through 12. Public schools, not private. That's a whole nother conversation because we know private schools in some old buildings, but I don't know. Anyway, so because this is delayed, essentially, and I agree with her. So now Senator Lamar said that if it was something that already existed with EPA, it would be easier to get it passed through the legislature. But they're not going to do anything more stringent than what they have to. And to be honest, some of your school districts may get their lobbyists to be like, hey, cut it out, because if they lower this threshold, then that means like more public scrutiny, and it could potentially mean that they may have to source more funding because they may have to do more remediation if they lower that threshold. That's pretty deplorable that you're thinking about it from that lens and not thinking about it from a moral perspective, but you know, what can you do? That's the update there. So we really can't do any additional recommendations right now. I know that in the last public comment, Chet was asking if we can go back to the school board to advocate if they could amend their local policy. They're not gonna do it. Because why would you do that? They already got attacked the first go around because we knew that was gonna happen, where in Memphis proper, they were gonna have the most instances of elevated levels. But if you lower it, you already know it's going to be even more schools that have elevated levels based on a lower threshold. So we are at a standstill with that. So I know. Why, man? It didn't have to be this way. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know why they stalling on this. It's weird. I don't know. Well, anyway, I'm gonna be back. Let me see. I think November the 7th. They have a Get the Lead Out partnership, so I'll be at the White House. I'm talking about it like, look, y'all need to get this together because this is unacceptable. So we'll see. The Rose Garden is magical. That's not where this meeting is gonna be, but the Rose Garden is right. It was nice. The lawn is great, but it'd be real hot. It's no coverage. I don't like that part, but it's pretty. Okay. Oh, was it any like points of discussion around that.
You know.
Oh, well, I don't know what else to say. Next thing, recommended members to LPC. I need to follow up with Jerry. Jerry's busy. So I still need to follow up with her. So we had two, well, one of them, he probably won't be able to do it. Frank was one of them, Frank Johnson, but he had a stroke. Ain't that something, Stephanie Love, currently, she had a stroke too. So I don't even know, because I think her term is up in December. So she don't need to take on nothing else, but that's not my call. But I'm not sure if she wants to be reappointed. So I need to reach out to her to see, what she want to do. But just from a humanity perspective,
Yeah.
that's too much. So Frank don't need to do it either. Well, he can't because he's still recovering. So we do have Deravia Rich. I was gonna say her maiden name because I went to high school with her, but she is one of the people that were nominated. So I need to follow up on that. And Eric, I need to see, you might have to be up for nomination again. I think it's getting close. I need to find out.
I feel like I did something not too long ago, but that's.
Oh, okay. Did they send you that automated thing?
Honestly,
I don't know. Okay, I'll find out.
I can't remember.
Because I don't want it to lapse.
Yeah,
I don't
whatever
want
it is,
smoke.
let me know so I can do it, and I'll expect whatever it is.
Okay. Really, it's real. You just have to do the little form thing again, and then the administration will get you on the agenda. And it's the same thing. You just have to go to the county commission meeting, and then they have to recommend you for reappointment, and then they'll do it, and then it'll be over with. Yeah. So I'll keep you updated.
Yeah.
I do know that they probably will want to do all of, if it's going to be somebody new, they're going to want to do that at the same time. So going back to the other thing, I'm going to talk to the lady for MLGW to see how she feels. So she do want to do it, so I can go ahead and get everybody in there together. Yep. So that's the update there. I kind of talked about this other part, like with the letter with item F around the school board. I'm gonna make an executive decision. I'm not gonna ask. And Frank was gonna be our liaison anyway on that. We can't right now. Okay, new business. So discussion, lead environmental scan. So for several months, all of the lead people in Memphis have been working together, including the city and the county, y'all. Come on. And we just got MLGW at the last minute, but hey, we'll take it. Essentially, we did this program where the aim of the program was to try to build a bridge between community and government and address distrust between community and government. So, that was interesting because we literally were meeting with community members. People from the agencies that were going in on them, but it was good. They needed to hear that, right? So anyway, so what came from that work is something called the lead environmental scan, which essentially will bring together all of the stakeholders that touch lead. That means code enforcement. That means like your team, like on housing. It also is MLGW. It's also schools. Wherever you might be exposed to lead, everybody has to come together. The health department, all the entities, where essentially it will become a comprehensive assessment of all of the different ways that you could be exposed to lead, with the hopes that you will develop a plan to mitigate lead hazards across the board. So it's literally bringing in everybody that would touch instances with lead exposure. So Monday at the Healthy Homes Partnership, are you on that list, You ain't on that list,
I don't think so. Let's take somebody.
I'll be forgetting about that. Y'all be having representation there. Actually, it might be good for you from your other life to be in those meetings. Yeah, I'll send it to you. Yeah, because it has like everybody be there. So like the city is there, the county is there, the health department is there. You have some like for-profit people, like contractors and stuff that are there. Yeah, Paul was there. Paul came Monday. I know. That he's part of the person that started the Healthy Homes Partnership. So that was that's beautiful. It was a full circle moment. It kind of got us in our feelings to see that. But anyway,
That's all.
happy feelings.
Yeah.
But anyway, so with the lead environmental scan, essentially with this collective of people, we finna push back to the county and to the city, like y'all gonna have to match these funds because the federal funding is not enough. So that we could really address like the whole lead issue altogether. So it would be like soil, water, housing, all the things. Because right now, and what we found out with that work, everybody's working in silos. So that's still in process. But we think we have a progressive mayor on the county side. We did not have one on the city side at all. So we're hoping that with the new transition that we'll finally get the support that we need with this. So that's the general update there. But does y'all have some
This came from the ET4 HS
Yep,
project.
yep. And then, yep. So that was, that was a pretty good program. It ran us slow, but it was worthwhile. It was like being in grad school. I was like, ooh, no, Father God. And okay, I'm gonna go through this briefly. Okay, the next item with the pollution reduction plan. So last year, literally almost a month from today, I mean, not a month, a year from today, I did a presentation before County Commission where essentially we asked them to do a pollution reduction plan. It's fully comprehensive. It does include some of the aspects that I talked about earlier that like would like protect our aquifer, wanted to protect the aquifer. That includes more of the groundwater board, not necessarily us. It also had aspects around like air pollution. Then of course, like our things around lead. So part of that, when I mentioned earlier with engaging with the health department, is to bring that back up again, is to see like, can we do a pollution reduction plan? So for our sliver of the work would be like on lead hazards. But again, we still want to hold them accountable, but we're going to push it over to the side to address those other things around pollution because we know that lead is not the only issue that's pervasive in community. So hopefully in the December meeting, we'll be able to dedicate like more time. Prayers up that Director Taylor will be here so that we can talk about that. That's okay. We almost through. But that's exciting. I mean, because this is a mess. We get like an F every year in air quality. It's real bad. Yep. So
That's no, that's an attraction issue. It's a business attraction issue. If you think about if we're getting Fs in particular categories and it affects quality of life, that could be a potential attraction issue where it means that we may not be able to attract certain companies based on how they feel about their ESG goals.
Oh yeah. We need to do, yeah, you need to come to the meetings. We need more collaboration on the business side, because that's absent. Because in these meetings, it just be community organizers and nonprofit folks. So, but we not, yep.
Okay, parking grass. What's ESG? What's this?
Environmental,
What is that?
is it environmental sustainability goals or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's end of the day, my
I'm with
acronyms
you.
are.
And then that is tied to a portion of tax credit or something, or what?
So
Environmental social governance.
environmental, so it's fairly new. So the premise is companies are being more conscious of how they are responding, their impact on the environment and impact on communities. So their ESG goals are they're realizing that it's all an economic output, right? However, on the other side of that, what you have to be cautious of is some people who are a bit more conservative typically push away from ESG because they see it as another, they see it as something that eats away at potential profit because these things cost money, right? So they see it as a means of eating away profit. Perfect example, well, not perfect example. An example is when the bank in San Francisco defaulted. I can't think of the bank right now. There were some people citing that their ESG protocols is what caused them to go under. Stretch. I don't think that's the case at all. But it's just stretch. But just know that that's one of the things that will be attacked. But specifically especially companies that are employing a large number of millennials which most companies are millennials and Gen Z, their ESG goals, right? I'm a senior millennial. Their ESG goals are pivotal to making sure they're attracting that social capital, doing good, doing good by doing well or something like that. My brain is fried at the end of the day. However, you get where I'm coming from. But tie those things back to ESG goals, and then that's how you make it make sense. Make it an attraction issue. Make it a business attraction issue.
Smart.
Just be in the right place at the right time.
That's real though. And then like right now, even for this piece of time that we got left with the Biden administration, oh baby, that's lucrative to like right now. You want to do all of that,
right? And that's
because they getting all the incentives.
There's incentive behind it, but the other thing is because of the climate we're in, we're about a year away from that. So you want to, like we talked about before, want to anchor some of those things in because we don't know what the other side of it is going to look like. So we have someone that's more conservative. That's probably going to be one of the things they attack, right?
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we need you in that space, Eric. So I'm going to be following up. But yeah, so I think I'm excited, about, we'll have more, I'll carve out more time for that in the December meeting. But and like get because it is interesting to hear, like, even if it's not specific to lead, it is like some overlap. Specifically as it relates to like climate change and the overlap like with pollution. So like, for example, I'm gonna use protect our aquifer. Their thing clearly is to protect the aquifer. Our thing is about lead. How climate change goes in there, baby, with this extreme cold, we don't know what's about to happen in December, for example. Right, those ruptured lines. Now, if there were already like pollutants like at the surface level, that was already a potential threat to like groundwater and the aquifer, so that's at risk. From our end, with a line rupture or it broke, was it lead in it? So it's an overlap.
Let me offer you this, and I'll say this and I'll shut up.
No, it's all right.
The way that it really, the way that you really hit home, and it really will hit home and the way you should pin it against something economically is, so before I worked for the chamber, I'll say as well, that's my employee. I worked for a company that worked on development across the Southeast. So amongst the people who dealt in municipal building and all the municipalities and the economic development folks across the spectrum, what happened is when the thing in Jackson, when the water issue happened in Jackson, there were people who were looking at Jackson as a place of investment. At that point, once that happened, when they had those major infrastructure issues and that water issue, everybody took Jackson off the list. So what does that do? That affects economic development for at least a decade.
A decade?
At least a decade.
Lord.
Conservative, right?
Ooh.
So again, these issues, a lot of times the challenge is people think, and that's why working in the space of DEI, people think, oh, this, you're talking about, diversity, yada. No, it's an economic issue. There are economic issues. Once these things happen, you remove whole entire cities from the short list of where they're investing. Companies are moving from the west. Companies are moving from the north. You think about climate change. People are moving from Florida. They're coming to the center of the country, come to a place that has a good water supply. However, if there's a catastrophic rupture or catastrophic issue or challenge, they don't want to deal with it because they know that the money hasn't been invested properly over this course of time. And so that means that you you can't officially pour more money into that because the infrastructure system's already broken. So they start looking for other places that are close. If nothing else, Jackson, Mississippi should be an example of this is why you pay attention to your infrastructure.
Yeah, they're gonna have to get it together because this stuff, and then it's in media, like it's bad. Like when that stuff went down, and it's been going on. Like the first, what the winter storm hit in 2021, I was talking about that earlier. I didn't have any water for 11 days. Now I was a downtown resident, and it literally, it wasn't just me. Think about like how that hit tourism, because like.
Hotels down there.
Right.
All those hotels.
It was a mess. I had not lived with my parents since I was 18, but like once we got like at day 7, I was just like, I'm not gonna be able to do this anymore.
No one can escape it essentially because those infrastructure issues are pervasive. It affects downtown. We know Midtown has its challenges and issues, and it also affects as far out as Lakeland. When the last, I live in Lakeland, so when this last power outage thing happened, we were out actually several times out there. The wind blows too hard.
Oh.
Power goes out 4 days. So the grid, if the grid is fragile and not reinforced, then it's like Legos. You can't build on top of something that is already unstable. If the Lego is missing teeth, you can't build on the top of it.
Right.
So that infrastructure piece has to be addressed. Pollution reduction plan is part of it. Like you said, if it's ruptured, you got pollution in the water, you got a catastrophic issue, economic development, they take you off the list.
And see that would be good for Director Taylor to hear, because I think like that's such a more diverse perspective. Because I think honestly, like when Protect Our Aquifer came in at MCAP, they're only thinking it from an activism perspective. So they're thinking about like the regulatory and oversight, like for the actual emittance of pollution, which is important. But like this is a whole nother layer that I don't think that ain't being discussed like that.
And that's the thing, the business community is not thinking about it. They're thinking about how to mitigate risk and save costs and these different things. The activist community is not thinking about it. They're thinking about regulatory things and making sure they're getting basic services
because people are sick,
right? But there's an overlap. And then there's this huge overlap of like the economic vitality, because if you've got a community is only as good as the product it produces. So if you're producing sick people, if you're producing a community that cannot support its basic infrastructure needs, then that's your product, right? That's your product.
Yeah.
So chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So if we can't get the infrastructure part right, if we can't get the sick kids challenge issue right with lead, then why am I going to move my executives, my managers here, and invest into this failing infrastructure?
And then like even adding to that part, like, and I used to, as a former educator, it's also connected to like school choice also. So like if we got a whole population of children that not even just lead poisoning, but like children who are chronically ill because of respiratory issues, for example, and they're missing school, that means that they're going to perform poorly. Depending if they have lead exposure, that means that it exacerbates like behavioral issues. And so now it's putting a strain like on your K through 12 system. Baby, when you're trying to move somewhere, folks, what's the first thing as a parent you're going to look at? Let me look at the schools, right? So that also like is either incentivizes or de-incentivizes like whether or not you're going to move to a new place. And I'm gonna tell you right now, that is a #1 contender is around like the quality of schools, and it's literally still connected to environment, and it's still connected to economics as well. And let's be real, even from another economic perspective, if we don't get this together around environment, we're going to spend all of this money into special education programming. When you look at the budget, so much money goes into special education, and we almost 20% of our population like receives special education services. It's very high. And in some schools, it's even higher than that. And so like peer pupil allocation, if you just regular baby where you don't need specific services, you don't get like as much money per se. If you like get special education services, you get some additional funding, but it don't be enough, right? It's not enough. Then on top of that, because you have an attraction issues, one to the field and to the city because of all of these issues, you have teachers that don't even want to come here. So I literally, it's all connected and it's a domino effect.
It's a root cause in that.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we getting the Fs? I know we might can talk about, is it industry?
So I'll give you, because you know I'm biased, baby, because I come from parents from Riverside. So think about where the Valero refinery is, right? For example, what's across the street from the Valero refinery? Railway. What's also in between Valero and a residential community? The highway. You got 55 right there, right? So it's the trifecta. You got the Valero refinery that's putting smokestacks into the air all day, every day. You got the highway 55, because you got to go down 55 to what? Get to the bridge, right? You got that. And then you also have railway. Then well, this is not so much as much like connected to air pollution, but then you also have major legacy pollution, particularly concentrated in that area on back into Mallory. But from an air pollution perspective, it's literally a trifecta. So you got smokestacks from the refinery, you got railway that still has this emissions into the air, and then you have highway all right there. And it's literally like houses right there.
On the side of the highway. Yeah. I say it all the time. I'm like, this is
When you
crazy.
roll through, you see it.
If you leave here and go downtown right now, you drive right through it.
And then honestly, this is what's so interesting to me, since I live, well, I don't want folks to know my business, but it's okay. Since I live on Riverside, now you got prime real estate right there. It's Riverside. Literally, if you keep going down Riverside, you right there in South Memphis. So like, for example, like with like ETO, we're impacted. 38103 is literally impacted by ETO because we're right there at the cusp of South Memphis, right? So that does negatively impact like property value. Like it does have like a direct correlation. And honestly, like when it was this explosion that happened at Valero, I could see it from outside. I could see it. I could see like it was a haze. You literally could see it, not just from Riverside, even on far back.
What day did that happen? It was last week, wasn't it?
It was a couple of months ago.
A couple months ago.
But the thing is, like, it be explosions at Valero frequently, but this one was real bad. Anyway, I don't want to get off topic, but anyway, even more reason, child, we need a pollution reduction plan, because this is a mess. And it can't just be like the responsibility of one agency. We got that bad in this city where it's like the Spider-Man meme, where it's just like, it's you, no, it's you, it's you. No, man, it's everybody.
It legitimately is everybody because it directly affects everybody. I don't know if there needs to be like, and again, this is outside of my realm of what can be written as far as collaboration, but there needs to be some kind of shared responsibility between business and those governmental entities to, if we would share the responsibility. And I know it's hard to coordinate, but there's when problems are bad enough, we find a way and a way to figure it out. For example, 9/11 happened. What happened? They created a whole new agency.
Sure did.
On Homeland Security. We got a problem. Homeland got attacked. We can create a division of Homeland Security.
Can we have an Office of Environmental Justice? It's all encompassing, because all of this stuff like scattered about, you got to centralize this stuff. You got to. Like this conversation that we have, and this shouldn't only just be happening in the library in Whitehaven. It's got to be like more collectivism. Otherwise, like it ain't, we're gonna still be working in silos, but that's my wish. No, it's related. No, it's related because we want this pollution reduction plan. Okay, last two, because we had 7:32. Okay, so in the next item, so there's this thing, the Tennessee Volunteer Emission Reduction Strategy. Whew. So essentially with the Inflation Reduction Act, there's a significant amount of funding that's specifically going towards greenhouse gas emissions, which in layman's would be like CO2 emission reduction. And so the state of Tennessee, they have their own like bucket of money. Memphis has their own bucket of money. So does Nashville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga. So your biggest cities like in the state of Tennessee. Anyway, so because technically, not technically, we are the Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission. So I did have an opportunity to meet briefly with her name is Lee Huffman, where she's on the city, that part that's the city and the county, to try to get like an understanding of like what they trying to do. So then the preliminary phases, so they haven't even really got started yet. So she said that they're going to begin their community stakeholder engagement in like the spring, so around April. So the state did theirs a little bit earlier. So the state, shout out to Memphis. Memphis had the biggest show out of all of the cities. I was proud of that. We showed up and showed out. Come on, Big Memphis. But essentially, like what the agenda may be like for the state of Tennessee may be different than what it may be in Memphis. So they literally in infancy stages. I told her, like plug us in, like you can come and talk to us and just tell us like exactly what this is. But the stakeholder engagement does begin in the spring, but I at least wanted to like get that on the radar, just so we can be informed. I don't necessarily think that like it's anything that we have to do besides just like amplifying, but they haven't started anything yet. But I think they like on this crazy timeline. I think they have to be like done like with the full comprehensive plan, which includes all of these different metrics and requirements for engagement by August. I'm like, yeah, Lee, that's not a year. That's not a year. So I'm gonna hold this girl, put her up in prayer. But that's the update there. It's not a lot, but I did say, at one point I would like for her to come and just talk to us about what this is. And I met her at the meeting that TDEC hosted, which was a couple of weeks ago. It was at the Benjamin Hooks Library. But yeah. Last thing is this is a testing year for the district or for the whole state for lead testing. I'm gonna reach out to them to see when they're gonna do testing. Last time, which was what 2021. They did it during fall break, which is it kind of, when is fall break? I don't know. I don't work there no more.
Like they had it already.
Has it already
It
happened?
happened already. It was last week.
Yep. I'm gonna email them this week to be like, did y'all do testing yet? To see like when, we should anticipate updates on that.
Is it not readily publicized when they're gonna do that test? Never mind. Okay. Oh man.
And that was part of the recommendations for them to
Yeah.
be more transparent with that. And like, regardless to whether or not it was elevated levels or not, release all of the data, but they won't do it. So the way that the law is written, it doesn't require them to do it. And the way that their local policy, so the law, I don't like the way that the law is written, because the way that the law is written, it mandates that each respective district creates their own policy. So you literally have a different policy in every single district, even here. So the policy for Memphis Shelby County schools is different than what Lakeland is, different from Millington. It's insane. But anyway, the majority of, well, no, it was some lead that popped up in Germantown when they did the last testing.
So, but is it? I'm sorry, but can we as an entity recommend a standardization of those things, of those processes? Like it doesn't. There may be, and again, I'm not trying to create more work for us, but if we've got these competing things or these different policies and they're different in the different locales, can we not find the string that says, okay, well, this is an acceptable threshold, right? If this one falls a little bit below, this one falls is about the same. So can we not
That's a cool project.
Can we not standardize that? Suggest a standardization of that. I'm not saying that they have to, but then also call out like, yeah, hopefully Memphis is doing it at a higher level than Lakeland.
They
is
are.
doing it. And why aren't y'all doing it at this level? And just point it out, like, yo, they doing it, y'all
Mhm.
not, and let everybody know that you're not, because essentially you're putting children at risk unnecessarily by having subsidized
I
lower
agree.
standards.
And it was real interesting where in that last testing year, it was at least 7 schools in the surrounding districts that did have elevated levels, and you already know them parents are like, no, wait a minute, right?
Why are my kids? Because I know your tax rate's high.
But I think I'm gonna have a note to self around that, and then because that's the last point around this annual report, I would like that to be included in the annual report. It's like a policy analysis where line up everybody's policy and have some sort of rubric to assess like how they fare. And honestly, Memphis Shelby County Schools is doing absolutely much more than any of these other like smaller districts. They're larger and they're more resourced, and we got the majority of lead.
Right. I mean, yeah.
But still,
but still the fact
a child is a child.
Right. And hell, my kids go to Lakeland school, so I don't want my child to be subjected to, I'm not saying that Lakeland is, but in theory, like I don't want my child to be at a school where they're doing, subpar measures to remediate lead in their water. Like, yeah, my kids go to school every day with water bottles, right?
Yeah.
I get that. That's fine. But kids are kids. Sometimes
right. They drink out the sink. You don't know what they're doing.
The water fountain, they washing their hands. They get, like, so.
Especially K through 5. They're babies.
Yeah, I got a second grader, and it's like, baby, you don't do that. You can't do that. Like,
I'm telling you now, if they got a sink in the art class, they drink out of the sink. They have water bottles. You think they care? They babies, they don't care. Water. And it's signs that have a sad face, like, no, you think that the babies care? They still drink out of the sink. They don't care. But anyway, I think that that's really good. When that happened, those districts, they were not responsive at all to this commission.
Because they, they weren't responsive.
Now the Memphis Shelby County Schools were, but then I worked there. They were, but anyway, okay. So that's my next step. I need to get some insight around like what their schedule is. Yeah. And then the last part is the annual report. So I did like a in-between year one time with the report, and it was kind of dumb because it wasn't a testing year. So I'm gonna wait until like the testing is done for this year because I just don't want to waste my time, and that will make like the most sense. But yeah, that was it. That was announcements. I moved from the last point of new business. All right, we're over time. So I'm gonna go ahead and end us. So I call the Shelby County Lead Prevention and Sustainability Commission October meeting to close at 7:41 p.m. We don't have quorum, so we are good to go. Thanks, y'all, and I'm gonna stop recording.
This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.